If I told you there's a country in Central Africa that's the richest and most developed on the continent, but where Christmas was once banned, the internet was off limits for years, press freedom is still not allowed, and its capital sits on a volcanic island while a shiny ghost city rises in the middle of the jungle. Would you believe me? Most importantly, this is one of the hardest countries in the world to enter. But if you're American, you can visit as easily as going to the grocery store. Curious? Stick with us until the end of this video for 12 mind-blowing facts and taboos about Equatorial Guinea. We promise it'll be worth your time. Can you believe it? Equatorial Guinea, a small nation in Central Africa about the size of Maryland, is among the hardest countries to visit on the entire planet. For citizens of 193 other countries, getting a visa to Equatorial Guinea is almost a nightmare. The process is extremely complicated, usually taking 4 to 6 weeks, while in neighboring Gabon or Cameroon it's just about a week. Applicants need an official letter of invitation from a local agency and must pay a fee of $100 to $200, double the regional average. Even with a visa and a plane ticket, you might still be denied entry at Malabo Airport. Unofficial stats say about 20 to 30% of travelers have been detained or forced to return. On travel forums, many people report being interrogated for 6 to 12 hours with no explanation. But if you're American, you're in luck if you want to visit Equatorial Guinea. Only US citizens are visa exempt. That's right, Americans are the only ones who can enter Equatorial Guinea freely. Why this exception? Many researchers believe it stems from strategic oil ties between Washington and Malabo since the 1990s, when American companies began tapping into massive oil reserves here. Because it's so hard to enter, Equatorial Guinea is one of the least visited places on Earth. According to the World Bank, the country receives only about 6,000 international visitors a year. And it's not just hard to get in, it's hard to get out. An Equatorial Guinean passport is among the world's weakest, only allowing visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to about 50 countries. By contrast, the world's strongest passports, like Singapore or Japan, let their holders visit over 190 countries without a visa. What do you think about a country that outsiders can barely enter while its own citizens can hardly leave? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Can you believe that while the world entered the digital age in the early 2000s, Equatorial Guinea was nearly cut off from the internet for years? For ordinary people, internet access was almost a luxury. This put Equatorial Guinea in the same league as other so-called dark internet countries. In North Korea, the internet is completely blocked and people only use a local intranet called Kwangmyong. In Eritrea, only about 1% of the population has ever used the internet, mostly in government-controlled cafes. For years, Equatorial Guinea's internet speed ranked among the lowest in the world, sometimes even worse than war-torn countries. The result is, well, bizarre. A nation with massive oil reserves and a per capita GDP once topping $20,000 PP became an island outside the digital world. International visitors are often shocked to find that Wi-Fi is only available in 5-star hotels, and it can take hours just to load YouTube or WhatsApp. It's only in recent years that the government has loosened restrictions, expanded bandwidth, and allowed broader public access. But control remains. Authorities can still shut down the internet nationwide at any time, and many online services are closely monitored. Can you believe that in a tiny country like Equatorial Guinea, the size of Maryland, there are two completely opposite family systems? On the mainland, Rio Muni, the Fang people make up 85% of the population and have a classic patriarchal society. Lineage is traced through the father. All children take the father's name, and land, property, and political power are passed from father to son. Men are not just the heads of families, but also keepers of tradition and represent their clans in important ceremonies. Some Fang village chiefs have dozens of sons with multiple wives. Wealthy and powerful men can have up to 10 wives, showing off their strength and status. Fang women play roles in farming and daily life, but their say in major decisions is limited. A common village scene is elderly men sitting on long benches surrounded by respectful sons and grandsons, like a council of men controlling the tribe's fate. But just head to Bioko Island, the lush volcanic island off the Atlantic coast, and you'll find the exact opposite, the matriarchal society of the Bubi people. Here, women are the center of the family. Children must take their mother's surname. Land and property are often in the mother's or aunt's name. And in many families, women have the final say in marriage, land division, and religious rituals. In traditional festivals, Bubi women lead the dances, showing their role as hosts of the community. The Bubi even have a saying, "Men are just passing guests, women are the living documents of the clan." Shockingly, in ancient customs, siblings with the same mother could never marry, but those with the same father could. So, what about you? If you had to choose, do you think a matriarchal or patriarchal society is more sustainable today? Leave your thoughts below. You may not know this, but the government here is considered one of the harshest dictatorships on earth, where obedience comes at the cost of personal freedom. In the US, you can start an opposition TV channel or post criticism of the government online. But in Equatorial Guinea, such actions can get you arrested or make you disappear without a trace. According to many international reports, this country is always in the top 10 for strictest press control. There are only a few state-run media outlets, and their broadcasts mostly praise the government. To put it in perspective, while neighboring Nigeria and Ghana have hundreds of competing private newspapers and TV stations, in Equatorial Guinea, people only hear the single voice of the government. The numbers say it all. According to Freedom in the World 2024, Equatorial Guinea scores just 5 out of 100 for freedom, 0 out of 40 for political rights, and 5 out of 60 for civil liberties. This means people have almost no free elections, no independent groups, and no right to speak out about issues affecting their lives. Beyond harsh control, illegal activities make things even darker. In cities like Bata and Malabo, underground groups often target women and adults. Imagine living in a country that seems developed, but where you can't speak freely, can't choose your leaders, and always risk falling into forced labor traps. Would you feel proud of your country's wealth or angry at the injustice and oppression? Share your thoughts below. Let's discuss. Equatorial Guinea, once a symbol of paper wealth thanks to oil, is now drowning in a painful paradox. According to 2025 data, the country's nominal GDP is about $12.68 billion, with per capita GDP at $7,750. By purchasing power parity, it's around $20,017 per person, among Africa's highest. Yet over 76% of the population still lives below the multidimensional poverty line, despite those impressive economic figures. In the capital Malabo, you'll see shiny paved roads, imported cars, luxury hotels, and grand government buildings glowing with lights. But just a few miles outside the center, it's a different world. Run-down rural villages, families collecting rainwater due to lack of clean water, unreliable electricity, and old generators powering entire communities. Children play on dirt roads, their eyes bright but their futures uncertain. This wealth gap makes Equatorial Guinea look like a distorted mirror. On one side, the oil kingdom with GDP numbers that impress the world. On the other, ordinary people who see little benefit from those resources. Did you know Equatorial Guinea has one of the wettest places on Earth and the wettest in Africa? That's Eureka Village on Bioko Island. It gets about 11,500 millimeters, or over 450 inches of rain a year, nearly 10 times New York's annual rainfall and 5 times that of Seattle, America's rainy city. It rains almost every day, pouring down and turning the area into a giant outdoor aquarium. As a result, Eureka is like a one-of-a-kind natural laboratory. The vegetation is thick, ancient trees tower covered in moss, and clay-red streams rush down to the sea. It's home to the Goliath frog, the world's largest frog, up to 13 inches long and nearly 7 pounds, looking like something from a sci-fi movie. Visitors have compared Eureka to a post-apocalyptic movie set. Grey skies, dense jungle, buzzing insects, and the occasional call of a giant frog. But for tourists, this is a destination for adventurers, not for those seeking relaxation. The road to Eureka is winding and slippery, and at times it feels like you've stepped into a wild, mysterious world. The current capital, Malabo, is on Bioko Island, about 20 miles off the mainland in the Gulf of Guinea. Imagine a capital city with coastal roads, the towering Pico Basile volcano in the distance, and waves crashing on black rocks. The scenery is stunning, but to get here from the mainland you have only two options: fly or take a boat. For such a small country, running the entire government from a remote island is no easy feat. That's why the government decided to build a new mainland capital, Ciudad de la Paz, formerly Oyala Ebiblo. It's promoted as Africa's Brasilia, set in lush rainforest with wide avenues cutting through the jungle. On paper, Ciudad de la Paz features huge administrative buildings, vast squares, and modern housing, but in reality, many visitors are shocked. You'll find perfectly smooth, shiny roads, but almost no cars, brand new buildings with fresh paint, windows closed, no lights, no people. The whole city feels like a grand stage with no audience. Instead of being lively, Ciudad de la Paz feels like a ghost city. Can you believe there was a place where Christmas, the world's biggest holiday, was completely banned? This really happened in Equatorial Guinea in the 1970s under dictator Francisco Macias Nguema. He was determined to wipe out Western influence from people's lives, and Christmas, a symbol of Christian culture, was target number one. Beautiful churches were closed, foreign priests and missionaries were expelled as foreign agents. People could no longer sing hymns or enjoy candlelit church nights. Even scarier, Macias banned Western Christian names like Maria, Jose, or Francisco. And at the height of his madness, Macias declared himself a god. At political rallies, people were forced to chant his name as if worshipping a new messiah. Only after he was overthrown in 1979 did Christmas return, with lights, trees, and joyful singing. If you visit Malabo or Bata in December, you'll see artificial Christmas trees, stores selling tinsel, and squares glowing with colored lights. Churches ring bells and sing hymns again. People wear bright clothes and children eagerly await presents. In the capital, the government even hosts public events like outdoor concerts, Christmas markets, and parades. When it comes to football, Equatorial Guinea is like a real-life fairy tale, but also full of controversy. Instead of spending decades developing youth talent like Nigeria, Ghana, or Ivory Coast, the country took a bold shortcut, granting fast-track citizenship to foreign players from Spain, Brazil, and even players who had never set foot in the country suddenly became national heroes. A prime example is Emilio Nsue, a Spanish-born player who once played for Middlesbrough and Mallorca. He scored a hat-trick against Guinea-Bissau in the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, shocking the continent. Or Fabrice Ondoa, a goalkeeper born in Cameroon, who became a national icon after shining in the 2015 Africa Cup. That year, 14 of 23 players called up were naturalized, a number that really rocked African football. The result was rare. From a nobody team, Equatorial Guinea made the 2015 Africa Cup semi-finals and the 2021 quarter-finals. The 35,000-seat stadiums in Malabo and Bata exploded with fans, and international media buzzed about a country few had ever heard of. For the government, football became not just a sport, but a soft power weapon to boost the nation's image. But this policy has been, well, controversial. The African Football Confederation once penalized Equatorial Guinea for using players who didn't meet citizenship requirements. In Equatorial Guinea, there's a law that shocks many foreigners. You can't import cars older than 7 years. In the United Kingdom, you can buy a 25-year-old car with no problem, but in Equatorial Guinea, it would never get past customs. The government says it's to protect the environment, reduce emissions, and promote a modern, wealthy image. Sounds reasonable, but in reality, it creates a strange and sometimes tough situation for locals. Because old cars can't be imported, prices skyrocket. A 2015 Toyota Corolla in the United States costs about $15,000, but in Malabo, it can go for $30,000 to $35,000, double the price. Meanwhile, according to the World Bank, the average income in Equatorial Guinea is only about $8,000 to $10,000 a year. So to buy a car, many people have to save for 3 to 4 years without spending anything else. As a result, most people have to use shared taxis or motorbikes. You'll see taxis packed with 6 to 7 people squeezed in so tight it looks like the car might burst. Meanwhile, the elite and officials drive brand new SUVs, creating a huge social gap right on the streets. Did you know Equatorial Guinea is one of the most misunderstood countries in the world? Just hearing the name, many people think it sits right on the equator. But the truth is, only the tiny island of Annobon in the Atlantic is actually crossed by the equator. Mainland Rio Muni is a bit north. The name was given by the Spanish to distinguish it from other Guineas in Africa. In fact, there are 3 countries named Guinea, also known as Conakry, which was a former French colony, Guinea-Bissau, a Portuguese colony, and Equatorial Guinea, which was Spanish, not to mention Papua New Guinea in Oceania. Imagine a European tourist booking the wrong ticket, ending up in Conakry, West Africa, instead of Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. So what makes Equatorial Guinea different from the other Guineas? First, it's the only country in Africa where Spanish is the official language compared to French in Guinea or Conakry and Portuguese in Guinea-Bissau. Its economy is also unique, with a population of just 1.7 million, but thanks to oil, its per capita income was once the highest in Africa. However, this wealth isn't shared. About 70% of people still live in poverty. By contrast, Guinea, also known as Conakry, is famous for the world's largest bauxite mines, Guinea-Bissau, for its Afro-Portuguese culture and colorful carnival festivals, and Papua New Guinea for its 800-plus languages and headhunting tribes. In the UK, you can march in London with thousands holding signs and chanting slogans protected by your rights. But in Equatorial Guinea, just a group of a few dozen people gathering for political reasons can be considered illegal. This isn't rare, it's deeply rooted in the country's political system. The reason is that Equatorial Guinea has one of Africa's most centralized governments, with a president in power since 1979, over 45 years. The authorities fear that any gathering, however small, could turn into a rebellion. As a result, society lacks open dialogue. People usually choose silence, and opposition politics happen underground or in exile. For visitors, the practical advice is to avoid joining or even standing near public gatherings, even if you think it's just a peaceful meeting. Here, even being in the background of a photo could get you questioned. Equatorial Guinea ends up like a distorted mirror, rich in oil but poor in opportunity, harshly restrictive yet full of unbelievable contradictions. Which fact shocked you the most? Leave a comment below with "I stayed until the end, so I know you're a true fan." Suggest the next country, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new episodes.